All right, now we need to read the state. First, let me show you something. Here in the constructor of app component, look at this ngRedux. Here we have a subscribe method. So this ngRedux is an observable. Let's subscribe to it and see what happens. So here's our listener. And in this listener, we're going to call ngRedux the get state. This returns the current state of the store. So then we put it in the console. Save. Now back here, I'm going to click increment. Now let's take a look at the console. So here's our state object. Counter is set to 1. Now back here, click again. Look, counter is incremented properly. So we have successfully implemented the part about using actions. Now in this lecture, we need to get this counter and put it on the view. So there are two ways to do this. One way is to do it here. So we get the state. Let's put it in a store variable and then set counter to store.counter. Let's try it. All right. See, it's working properly. However, this implementation has a tiny problem. This subscribe method returns a subscription. So we should handle onDestroy lifecycle hookup the component. So whenever our component is destroyed, we should make sure to unsubscribe from this subscription. Otherwise, we're going to end up with memory leaks. The second problem with this implementation is that it's a little bit tedious. We don't want to subscribe to this observable every time in order to read its properties. So there is a better way. We can select a slice of the store as an observable, and then in the template, we can use the async pipe to unwrap it. With this, we don't need to explicitly unsubscribe from that subscription. So the async pipe will take care of that. So I'm going to go on top of this file and import a decorator function from ng2redux called select. With this decorator function, we can select a slice of the store as an observable. So then we can apply to this counter field here, select, and this will return an observable, not a number. So we shouldn't initialize counter to 0 here. Plus, we don't need this anyway, because earlier we initialized counter to 0 in the store. And now with this, we no longer need this piece of code. Delete. All right, now we can go to the template for this component. So here's our counter field. We can apply the async pipe to unwrap it. Let's test the application. Okay, click. Beautiful. By convention, this select decorator gets the name of this field and looks up for a field with the exact same name in the store. Sometimes the names do not match, or you may decide to rename this counter to something else for whatever reason that is important to you. So in this case, let's rename this to count. And also in the template, I'm going to modify this here. All right. So now we need to pass an argument to this function and specify the name of the property or the field in the store. So counter. Okay, let's test the application. Beautiful. Now let me show you how to access a property if it's part of a complex object. So let's go to the store. I'm going to modify iAppState and add a new property, messaging, which is an object. And here we're going to have a property called new messages, which is going to be a number as well. And then I'm going to modify this initial state, messaging with new messages. I'm going to set this to 5. Now we have a red underline here because this object we're returning only has the counter property. It doesn't have messaging. So as a temporary fix, I'm going to make this new property optional. So in our interface, I'm going to add a question mark here. And now messaging is optional and that compilation error is gone. So let's go back to app component. Declare a field here, new messages. Now we apply this select decorator here. Now instead of a string, here we need to use an array to provide a path to the target property. So array, 2 elements. The first one is messaging, and the second is new messages. So with this, we can access messaging.newMessages property in our store. Now, there is also another way to access a property in the store, and that's by using a function. So let me declare another field, new messages count. Again, select. Now here we pass an arrow function. S, as in the state, goes to s dot. Now here we don't have IntelliSense because the type of S is not clear. So we can put parentheses around it. And here we add the type, IAppState. And then we can access s.messaging.newMessages. So these are 3 ways we can use the select decorator, using a string, an array, and an arrow function. Now, before moving to the next lecture, I'm going to delete these 2 lines here. So I want to revert the changes and focus on a small part. So save. And back in the store, I'm going to remove this messaging from our application state, delete, and delete.